Nauraspur, it depicts various, all the Navarasas. Emotions are global, but very individual in their feeling. And then the viewer kind of becomes at the center of that perception. As an experimental weaver, I often pick up different materials and it turns into what you call fusion and multi-layered. You must innovate. Innovation is experimenting and taking it to another level. Sone Ki Chidiya happened for 75 years of Indian independence. The work has a cluster of 3 sparrows that is repeated all over the work. It's very, very subtle, and that represents my 3 beautiful daughters.
From weaving saris on a single loom to crafting monumental installations that shimmer across international airports, Pragati Mathur has transformed the humble handloom into a language of sculpture, memory, and emotion. A true innovator, she weaves with silk, jute, copper, steel, even discarded materials, turning textures into stories and fibers into poetry. And through it all, she carries with her the colors of Rajasthan, the discipline of the loom, and an untamed instinct to experiment.
Hi, welcome to Expressions. I'm Neha. Today I'm joined by Pragati Mathur. I'm very excited to know about her journey, so let's get into it. Hi Pragati, thank you.
Hi Neha, hi. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
This is such a pleasure.
Same.
Thank you.
I want to begin by asking, and also we're all very keen to know how you kickstarted your business.
So this is a while ago, 36 years ago, when I first moved to Bangalore. I had just passed out of Sophia's. I studied textile technology and art at Sophia's.
Okay.
And the year I passed out, I topped the year. I'd gotten a gold medal. Very proud of myself at that point. And my father-in-law, actually, who's no more, he told me that he would get me my first loom as a gift if I agreed to get married fairly right away. And true to his word, it all actually started with 1 loom, 1 gold medal, oodles of passion, which went on and grew to 8 looms, 2 units of my own over a span of 13-14 years.
Also, please just tell us about your design process a little. How do you work and what is your workspace like?
My design process per se is usually starts with a line sketch, a drawing, and often because I work on commission works now as an artist, or even otherwise if I'm doing things for myself, I like to do a preliminary sketch, a working title to give the work a kind of a personality and a name, and then a concept note, which is again a very short concept note. It could be a poem that has inspired me, it could be some writing that I saw, something that I've written myself over time, and then I kind of build that into the process. And when I do take on works, commission works for instance, I try to stay the course because it's important to let your client know ahead what you're thinking. And because not everybody comes from the creative world, may not be able to imagine it. And then, yeah, that's pretty much the process. I also turn to nature for inspiration. Doesn't let you down in terms of balance and color and form. Then there is also ancient geometry. Again, doesn't let you down. It's a very thought through space. Everything that they did those days was from a very clear perspective. And architecture, these are all really things that, and life at large, very cliched to say this, but life at large is very, very inspiring.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of books that you refer, or do you
Yes.
go back to history also?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think, so I have about, I mean, it's not a very large collection, but I have 150 books on textiles that I've collected over the years, and the library is surely growing.
What about your colors? I mean, how does that come in?
Colors is innate strength.
Yeah.
I think it's a gift and I'm very grateful for it. I knew very young that I would work with color eventually, from a very young age. So I was good at sketching, I was good at art, I was very bad at studies, but color was a strength, and my dad often worried that, you know, what are you going to do with your life and what is art? But I think today he'd be proud of me.
Yes, absolutely. So, who has been your most influential teacher or mentor?
Wow, that's an easy answer actually. You of course know of Nelly Setna, the weaver.
Yeah.
She's no more, but when I was studying at Sophia's in Mumbai, that year Sophia's opened their first art gallery.
Okay.
Their art gallery right outside the college, and the first show was of Nelly Setna's, and that year I was in foundation, and I walked in and I knew. I said, "This is who I want to be." You know, the display, the tapestries. There was just this very ethereal, meditative space that had been created by her weaves and her tapestries, and that was my start point.
Did you have any interactions with her?
We did. We were fortunate because she was still there and did workshops at Sophia's. She and actually another weaver called Rajan from Ahmedabad. They were mentors, and we were very, very fortunate to learn from them. So, yes, at 19, I knew that, and the looms, right? There was a very definite textile department, and the looms would actually call me. I know it sounds
No,
a
I
bit
can
strange,
totally
but
understand.
yeah, and I knew that this is where I would head.
You worked with fibers like silk, jute,
Yeah.
but also metals like copper,
Yeah.
steel, wires, brass. How do these materials change the emotional experience of the finished product?
For instance, Nauraspur, right?
Yeah.
Nauraspur is a suspended, it's a 9-layered emotion.
It's beautiful.
City,
I saw
right?
the.
It depicts various, all the Navarasas. Now, with the materials that I use, there is a part of Nauraspur that will help me explain it better, which is Raudra, which is anger, right? And it's these layers and layers of copper strips that have these red color knots in the work, and it kind of comes downwards on an escalator shaft. Now what that shows, red depicts anger, the knots, because it's moldable, because it's copper wire, and the knots hold. It shows how we tie ourselves in knots, right, when we're angry, and then that creeping up of anger that catches everybody off guard. In the same breath, there is Shanta, which is peace. There are 108 small elements that depict bits of sky and cloud, because you're imagining what clouds, you know, sort of look like when you look from an aircraft, because it's at BIAL. But the white organza, which is used as a technique, as a shag pile rug technique, then bringing in the textile technique there, right? The white color gives you peace automatically, and the free floatingness gives you peace. So this is how emotion is expressed. I mean, all emotion, right? When I've had people stand there and look at it, and I've not told them I'm the artist, and we've talked about it, and often people have said that, my goodness, you know, I feel so peaceful when I stand here. Oh my God, but I wonder what that means. Emotions are global, but very individual in their feeling, right? And then the viewer kind of becomes at the center of that perception.
And I mean, when do you know that a piece is finished? I mean, how do you realize that?
So it's a strange thing that happens. I think all artists will tell you this, or perhaps weavers will tell you this. Of course you plan, and of course you pre-plan, and of course you have a concept, and it's all there, and work does evolve, and I do sort of let people know this ahead. And it's very important to engage with that evolving process. Somewhere along the way, halfway perhaps, the work takes on a personality of its own, and starts to have a dialogue with me. And I think it's very important to respond to that dialogue. And on paper, it may not be finished, but I could reach a point because the work is telling me, okay, this is where it stops, right? Or this is where you need to add something, or this is where you need to subtract something. And I think that engagement is imperative to the soul of the work and the success of the work.
And what kind of materials do you prefer to work with? I know you work, anything that you lay your hands on, but
quite literally, yeah, it's as an experimental weaver. I prefer to stay in the natural arena of things, sustainable, repurposed. I know these are becoming bad words, everybody is using sustainable and repurposed. But that is my backbone. I don't really go the synthetic plastic route unless it is an imperative requirement of a site specific work.
Yeah. And also, do you use traditional techniques or you've developed your own?
Because I've studied weaving, I'm deeply rooted in technique and methodology, right? So while I push the boundaries all the time, I'm pushing the boundaries, and my weavers who work with me constantly say agala, which is it can't be done. I don't understand that line at all. I don't understand that concept. So I do the work in a traditional way. It's deeply rooted in technique, but constantly pushing the boundaries and saying the limitations of the loom, or pushing that envelope to see how much further can one go.
Yeah. And Nauraspur brings the 9 Navarasas to life through such unexpected materials.
Right.
Metal, glass, beads, silk, even silver-plated flowers. How did this concept grow from a creative spark into such a large installation? Right. And what can budding artists or students learn from the way you experimented on this piece?
Right. So Nauraspur was meant to be 3 feet by 5 feet work when it started out. And the approval had come on that basis. And I was thrilled because this was my first step into the public art space. And the curator at that point at BIAL, Yamini Telkar, the most amazing human being, called me and she said, Pragati, it's through, but I think we have a new space for you. So I said, okay. And when she came back, she said, come and meet us. And she said, oh, it's a 30 feet by 25 feet ceiling suspended work. I disappeared on her for 2 weeks. I didn't call her back, and then she was like, what happened to you? And I was overwhelmed at the idea, and somebody is taking a huge leap of faith in you. I hadn't done a work at that scale. Scale is very important here, ever. So she said, okay, just take a deep breath, she helped me process it. And I've also been weaving now for 30 odd years, so I have a huge collection of samples, things that I've woven over time. I don't know why I've woven what I've woven, and it's possibly the emotional journey at that point that I was going through, and the expression happened. So I actually pulled out things that would suit the kind of emotional representation that was required. And I didn't realize how much work I had done in those 25 odd years, and it fit perfectly. Yeah. So I think for to answer your question regarding young artists, how to
experiment without limits.
Yeah, I mean also to kind of trust your intuition, have a very clear language for yourself, don't copy. I find, because they have so much available at their fingertips today. I remember being at an art show, textile show in Coimbatore, and it's a epicenter for mill-made cotton fabrics. There are multiple textile schools. I was doing walkthroughs for 800 odd students every day, and to show them the collection that we had at that point. And I remember asking them, saying, how do you, what inspires you? Where do you get your inspiration from? And one of them actually said Pinterest.
I was just going to say that.
I was
horrified.
And I said, a walk in nature, sitting under a tree, water, ocean. There's so many stars at night. There's so many. Unfortunately, this is where they're at. There's also the fact that you have Instagram, also have global availability. You could copy before somebody can say Jack Robinson, and you've already made it your own. But is it really your own? Right? And these are the things I think that are important to remember. That be inspired but don't copy, right? And build your own narrative and your own story, because you will have a story. Each one of us has our own story.
And that stands out as a unique.
That would be, again, that would be the soul,
original,
right? And that's where the success is. I mean, success, I don't necessarily mean monetarily. I mean, even for you to be satisfied, for creating something. You're a creator. It should be about you.
So, how do you see this role of textile art in public spaces evolving?
The time in textile art establishing its identity as art is now, right? People are recognizing it, people are adding value to it, people are seeing it as art and another medium of expression, right? Which is wonderful. But the spade work has been done over the past 25, 30 odd years by people like Martin Singh, Mayank Mansingh Kaur, many foundations, to name Devi Art Foundation. Right? They've had huge textile shows to bring this form to the forefront. But I think we're there. I think people are actually looking at textile art as collectible and collectors, which is wonderful.
Also, the installation you created with some 5th and 6th generation weavers and trained artisans. How do you collaborate with them while still retaining your personal artistic voice?
It's a due process. I am very clear from the concept stage, and I'm a part of every process, from procurement of materials to sketches to enlargements to how the material will be laid out, and every 2 mm that is woven is actually written down and given in great detail to the weavers that I work with, to the people I work with. I oversee it personally. I have a team, small team, that helps me do this as well. And we are constantly a large part of the process. It's never wherein it's just left to anyone to do. There's a format, there is a preparatory process, and there is another thing which I insist upon is a sampling process. So we, ahead of doing the work, we do mock-ups, we do dummies, and we do sampling, right? So that any glitches, any iteration can be eliminated at that stage, and then it becomes easy to just follow it and have it take its own course.
This is my favorite one. We spoke about Rajasthan. So you've often mentioned how the colors of Rajasthan and early memories of your parents' travels shaped your creative ability. So in your recent piece where you've repurposed a vintage brocade sari, connecting Kashmir's wool, Rajasthan's cotton and the Deccan silk, how did your own roots guide this fusion, and what should young creators learn about honoring tradition while reinventing it?
So far, as an experimental weaver, I often pick up different materials and it turns into what you call fusion and multi-layered. However, it's a very thought through process, and balance and orientation is very, very important. For instance, what I'm wearing right now is mulberry silk, peculiar to Karnataka. It's Angora wool, which is comes from Kulu Manali, Himachal, and Gota, which is from Rajasthan, right? It may look multi-layered, but there is a very definite plan of action, right? It's balance and orientation. I keep coming back to this because you see a lot of textile out in the market today that is 50 colors, 10 motifs, all rolled into one. It's not making any sense. However, there are other beautiful textiles that are again thought through, and there's a very definite design language. So for me, the desert is very, very, very deeply ingrained in my soul, and copper as a material comes very close to the color, the form, the malleability,
memory,
resilience, memory. The strength and the resilience. So for me, that sort of is my narrative. So again, honoring tradition is very important because that is you. That is also authentic, right? It's real. It's you must innovate. Innovation is experimenting and taking it to another level and finding newer maybe even more contemporary expressions. But you can't lose sight of what it truly is, right? Because that is the purity.
How do you balance nostalgia, geography, and innovation in one artwork with this piece?
Right.
Piece?
So actually, I will answer that question with a work of mine,
Okay.
Which is called Over the Ocean and Under the Waves.
Okay.
I did this for a client of mine for their Goa home. Goa is also a place that's I love because it's my space where I unwind. I love the water, I love the ocean. It's my chill space. It's also their chill space and their home where they wind down, right? So the work actually depicts the personalities of the people who own the work. It's a diptych. It's in 2 layers. One layer is very profound and deep. It's completely in copper. There are some burnt parts of it, dark. There's some patina. I've also used some pellets that kind of reflect bubbles, the bubble network, crab holes, and the beach, right? The other part of the work is with white organza in a shag pile technique in copper, and because it's metal and copper, it creates this wave kind of formation, which depicts the lady of the house who's flirty and childlike, and the waves also are playful and
so
flirty,
sweet,
right? And at actually the end of the work, I've also brought in some plastic elements because that is the state of our oceans today, and it's a sad state of ocean. Their daughter also works tirelessly in cleaning of oceans and that arena. So I've actually had all 3 of them come into that one work. As a
adding character to the
absolutely. So my version of Goa is nostalgia and what I feel there, and also what they want, and it's a geographic representation without it being a aggressive philosophy. I'm still saying things like we are destroying our oceans without really it being a sort of a So this is usually how my works take shape.
Let's talk about Sone Ki Chidiya. So Sone Ki Chidiya invites people to touch it, which is rare, okay?
Right.
Why was it important for you that people feel this golden river of cloth? What's the coolest story behind choosing the golden sparrow as a theme?
So Sone Ki Chidiya, and let me answer the first question. Textiles should be touched, right? I go to a textile show and my first instinct is to feel it, right? Because it's tactile. However, there are limitations to that notion because hands may not be clean. Today's, have throngs of people you can't control. It could get pulled, it could get damaged. So it's not always ideal. But the only way to enjoy a textile art is to touch it, in my mind, right? Because it's tactile. Sone Ki Chidiya happened for 75 years of Indian independence through Sutra Santati, Lavina Baldota Foundation. We had a very clear brief that the textile should represent India. And that's what we were called, right? We were globally one of the largest contributors to world economy at 25%. Right? Today that's changed dramatically, but India was known as Sone Ki Chidiya. Also, the work, and this is very important, the work has a cluster of 3 sparrows that is repeated all over the work. It's very, very subtle. You can barely see them. You really have to look for it until I mention it. And that represents my 3 beautiful daughters. So it's a very personal piece from that.
I'm going to look into it.
Absolutely.
Your work sits at the intersection of textile, sculpture, and installation. So, do you see yourself more as an artist challenging tradition, or traditionalist extending the language of weaving?
Absolute traditionalist extending the language of weaving. Yeah.
When you look back on your journey, your ideas at that time, does what inspired you then inspire you now also?
Yes. Because like I said, my inspirations have very often come from nature, very often come from life, very often come from like ancient geometry, landscapes. I still turn to them. For instance, I did a very beautiful work for the Otera in Electronic City, and also women's narratives. I mean, those are also very important and somehow subtly show up in my work because I'm a mother of 3 lovely girls, and as a woman myself, the work is called She. It's actually a seed pod. So the seed pod representing carrier of life. The form is that seed that you see floating in Bangalore. It's called papadi, right? It's that transparent seed that has a tiny little seed at the end. But these are oversized light installations, and there's 49 of them. I think I must have been 12 or 13 when I first encountered the seed. I'd kept it and said, at somewhere along my life's journey, somewhere I will work with this form. And it happened 40 years later, 45 years later.
Wow.
Yeah. It's something that stays, right? It's in your memory. It's something that you absorbed. Another thing that I really do want to do is a gossamer. Textile which represents the wings of a dragonfly. I mean, that's again something that's there in the memory, and I'm sure it'll show itself when the time is right.
Do you read?
All the time. All the
so
time.
even that inspires you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I must tell you that I had a suggestion from someone in the textile industry who's very dear to my heart. And you know, he gave me an anecdote which I would love for younger people to take on, is that read on your subject half an hour every day. Right? It builds your knowledge and understanding. Don't do it as a chore, but do it as something that you are enhancing.
Investing in yourself,
That's
you know.
it.
Exactly.
So I actually did follow that little rule there, and it really helps. And things that you may have read 20 years ago in a line will come back to you when you most need it.
These days, there is a lot of talk about how saris are being revived.
Right.
So, do you think that it is a very narrow approach to the conversation where there are whole sections of this country in which sari has never died? What are your thoughts on those? I also see some brides these days. I see that they've worn their grandmothers, they've revived their grandmother's sari.
Right. So revival to me is a good thing. I think in any form revival is a good thing. It's also something that Indian women look their best in. Is perfectly fine. The more communication, the more conversations around it, the better. I think younger generation today, why younger generation? I mean, you and I as well, for convenience, wear other clothing. And whereas my mother, my grandmother, wore saris only, right? They slept in saris, they woke up in saris. It's something that we're not doing anymore. Younger generation are now wearing them more as costumes. I think the need for the conversation is a good thing.
Yes, and also you think about it then, I mean.
Sure, and then you also add value to what you have in your cupboard, for instance, right? My girls, for instance, enjoy wearing my saris on occasion, pride in the fact that it's a beautiful collection. Fortunately, my mother, my grandmother all had great taste. My dad, who bought my mother the saris, had great taste. So they will inherit some wonderful textiles, right? But the appreciation for it will only come if there is an ongoing dialogue and a conversation. So it's a good thing.
I love how you explain this. What is the best thing to have happened in your business to date?
The best thing that has happened to me in terms of a commission or work
sense of satisfaction.
Yeah, I mean, my goodness, there is a tremendous sense of satisfaction, a sense of creating, because it's all done by hand, right? It's also very meditative. It's also a slow process. It's the way I like to work. It also brings about sort of a personality type, right? I enjoy what I do. It gives me immense satisfaction.
And if you had to pick a piece out of all the things that you've created, what is the closest? Which
I
one
think
is
my old pieces will be upset if I answer that. But there is a new piece that is actually one that I've just finished. It's for a light show. That's going to happen in March. The work is now, it's in copper wire, and it's multimedia where I've used paper, there's copper wire, there's various other materials that have been used, and the work represents the humpy. It's a stack of rocks that sit one on top of the other, the precarious balance, nature at its best. And now the work is also taken on, of course it's wire, so the works were also earlier three-dimensional, but here I've managed to give it form, so they actually look like rocks. And now I think this is a pivotal point in my work journey, evolvement, where it's taking a turn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Synonymous to your journey. What have been your personal milestones over this decade?
No milestones. It's actually been, I have just gone with the flow, and it's been organic, and I think that is the best part of it, right? The minute you put milestones or you start to quantify creative output, it just puts pressure. So no milestones.
What do you find most exciting and most challenging about being a part of Indian textiles now?
So exciting, I actually just find it exciting. I don't find it challenging. There are lots of entities working tirelessly to bring the Indian textile documentary to the forefront. It's a very exciting time. There have been many shows in the recent past that are projecting that. There are collaborations internationally that are talking about this. So we are a country of thousands of years of history of textiles and of fiber, right? And that needs to be revered, right? And we are bringing back that sense of large-scale ownership and pride.
What's a weaving mistake that accidentally turned into a masterpiece?
With weaving, actually, there can't be any mistakes or accidents, because it's an expensive, time-consuming, labor-intensive process. So no accidents really. It's been a very thought-through process, because once you've
set the
you put the warp up, for instance, and you've decided on your wefts, you really, if you have to undo it, it's a very challenging thing. So one has to be very conscious of that,
and organized and planned.
And it's an engineering feat. I never thought I would look at myself as an engineer, but or a mathematician, because I hate maths. But I didn't realize how much maths weaving requires. I'm getting there, but yes, it's very important to have that prep in place, and accidents could be expensive.
Paris Art Museums or Rajasthan Bazaar? What's your take?
A bit of both, if I may say so. I have had the good fortune of exposure to both, and they hold their own charm and value. I remember as a 12-year-old being at the Pompidou Center in Paris, traveling with my parents, and I did tell my dad that one day I'll showcase here, and he just looked at me and he said, "Yeah, sure." And and pop art was very big in I'm talking about sort of mid 70s, early 80s, and so having traveled and seen all of this. And then, of course, Rajasthan, and that's where my soul lives, my heart lives. I'm sure you see it walking around somewhere. But so a bit of both.
How do you see the future of traditional handlooms in India?
I'm certainly hoping that it grows, stays. We have so much beautiful knowledge, understanding, craftsmanship. I mean, look at us as a country. I'm working actually on a project with somebody from the Maldives. The handloom culture has died in the Maldives. It's over. So they're beginning now to come here. You know, you feel heartened at the resurgence. You feel heartened at the various entities working tirelessly in the field to keep it going. I think keeping it going and giving it its due respect is very, very important. Also to bring it to the forefront in the everyday arena, because then only then it becomes a revolution, right? It cannot be for the limited few. But I see it moving forward. There are conversations, of course, around the next generation not coming in. And why will they? Because it has to be commercially viable even for them. Right? If a weaver is not going to make enough money, why will his next generation come in? So how do we change those perspectives and narratives? Those are important questions. Policy, I'm not an expert at that, but those are important questions. But I do see it growing. In Karnataka itself, there are huge clusters all over India. Actually, there are huge clusters in the handloom arena that are doing some sensational, incredible work. But to give it its due, not only in terms of aesthetics, but commercially, right? That would be the ideal scenario.
Thank you very much for this conversation. It was
Not
very
at all.
enlightening.
Yeah, this was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From copper threads that bend like memory to saris reborn as contemporary art, Pragati Mathur reminds us that the loom is not just a tool. It's an extension of the soul. Her journey teaches us that innovation isn't about breaking tradition. It's about expanding it. That art doesn't have to choose between heritage and modernity. It can celebrate both. And that every material, from silk to steel, hides a story waiting for the right hands to reveal it. If Pragati's creative journey inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and comment. And remember, every color, every texture, every idea begins with a single spark.